district would have been off.
Really? Probably.
He's living.
Well, that's, God bless your son for taking him up and taking him to the bed. That's just.
You gonna buy it?
I mean, I'd like to do that.
4.5.
Dude, that'd be too small. Next to the pictures he had.
I mean, that dude had homes. Did not even have
Should have
land.
been used to.
I don't even know who owns it.
I'm gonna tell them they got 3 minutes, so I think we got some long-winded.
Another dog wasn't in his plans.
But,
Sometimes you do.
He's gotta get it good, he's gotta come up and false.
Morgan, what game's on tonight?
I don't even know. I mean, I know NFL game. I don't know who's playing college football tonight.
Does Tech still have a football team?
No, not a very good one.
Oh, yeah, that ain't no problem. Still
I thought maybe they were going into
We're rebuilding.
pickleball or something.
Oh, I don't trust that we'd be any good at that. I don't trust that we'd be any good at that.
I was telling Morgan, we
This-
could put Virginia
you
together
need to,
and not have
oh,
a team.
you need to
I
get
still
the
don't think it'd be any
maintenance
good.
guy to check this chair, sitting here and it's going through.
Oh, is that the one that dropped you down? Yeah. So by the end of the meeting, when you're under the desk, we'll know where you are.
It sounds like.
That's all right, he's been on the table.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your chair ran the back of the head, because I used to come in here and let the damn thing all the way down. When he come in here and sit down, he couldn't hardly see over the counter. Oh, I'd jack it all the way up and then his feet wouldn't hit the floor. We got teasing him, but that's so bad. Gone went in his truck. We were sitting in line at a Kinsale, and Gone walked down there, because y'all was standing there socializing and stuff. And Gone walked up to his truck. He said, "How big a pillow have you got in sitting in that thing you're sitting on?" See over
701.
Oh, one. All right. If y'all are ready, we will come back to order. Which one of y'all want?
I'm gonna do this.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're here tonight.
Where's that piece of paper?
Oh, okay. We got-
It's right here. Isn't it?
No, so I'll put it back in here.
Yeah, give me that.
We're here tonight to consider amendments through a public hearing to the outdoor event ordinance, sections 110.01-11004, outdoor music festivals, concerts, and events of the Richmond County Code of Ordinance. I'll read the call. In accordance with section 15.2.2204 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, pursuant to section 15.2.2285 of the Code of Virginia as amended, the Board of Supervisors hereby gives notice that a public hearing will be held starting at 7 p.m. Thursday, October 13th, in the Richmond County Public Meeting Room to receive public comment on the following proposed amendments to section 110.01 and 110.04 outdoor music festivals, concerts, and events of the Code of Ordinances. Prior to getting into my little overview I want to go through, I did want to mention something I just passed out to you, the final and updated version in your board packet. I apologize. You have the next to last ordinance that the attorney and I were able to work on. The only difference between what you have in your board packet and what I just passed out was the definitions at the very top, where the attorney recommended that outdoor event be separated into an outdoor event multi-day, outdoor event one day. It's stated in the one that you have in your board packet. They just broke that out to clarify that. The content of the ordinance I just passed out to you, the final ordinance, and the one you have in your board packet are the same. So if I could, I would just hit some of the primary amendments that we're discussing tonight, and then I'd be happy to answer any further questions that you may have. And these are really the highlights of what this ordinance amendment does do. It would separate one-day events and multi-day events to require one-day events to apply to the Board of Supervisors at least 60 days prior to the event. One-day events will need an application and approval at greater than 100 persons as opposed to the 250 persons currently. This would require multi-day events to apply at least 120 days prior to the event with required advertising, adjoining property notices, and a public hearing. Multi-day events, regardless of size, would be required to go through this process. This proposed amendment does remove music, festival, or concert from the heading and from the title, and it would amend this ordinance to really just be an outdoor event that would include a broader scope of outdoor events that would involve music or amplified sound, not within an enclosed building or structure. Events held by the county schools, churches, or private celebrations such as weddings, birthday parties, or family events would be exempt under this ordinance, and I believe that's an exemption that currently exists. One-day events with more than 500 persons would be required to work with and utilize the public safety services of Richmond County, to include rescue and sheriff's office, potentially the volunteer fire department, but that's not necessarily our service. Multi-day events are required to work with and utilize the public safety services of Richmond County, including rescue and sheriff's office. It's expressly written in the accommodations section of both multi-day and single day that overnight camping would not be permitted without a special exception permit through the Richmond County zoning ordinance. The ordinance does allow for the Board of Supervisors to attach reasonable conditions and restrictions on the application in the interest of the health, safety, and welfare of the community. So that's kind of the highlights of the amendments that the board instructed us to bring back to you for consideration. Would be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Excuse me, any board member have any questions at this time? Okay. All right, thank you, Hope. All right, at this time, I'm going to open the public comment period. You will each be granted 3 minutes. When you call, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the records. Your 3 minutes won't begin until after you've done that. Address all your comments to the Board of Supervisors, not to the audience. And please note this is a public comment period and not a question and answer session to the board. And finally, be respectful of everyone's comments. Mr. Emery?
Thank you. Is this on? My name is Taylor Emery. I live at 361 Mill Pond Road at Mount Airy Farm. And I'm here tonight to ask you all to vote against the changes to this ordinance. I support Richmond County and the board's important work, and I thank them for their interest in outdoor events. As a large event producer, I know the importance of working with the county, the sheriff, the EMS, and the administrator to produce a successful event. The safety and health of all event attendees is a paramount. I have put on over a dozen large outdoor events in this county and never had one problem. I believe our events are a model for others in this county. That being said, some of these proposed changes are a bit too much in my view. They also combined present an anti-business, anti-tourism stance to our residents and to outsiders alike. For instance, lowering the number of attendees at an outdoor paid event from 250 to 100, I believe, is particularly burdensome and misdirected. I think they should stay at 250. I also think asking organizers for multi-day events to apply 120 days out is a burden, and I ask that it be shortened to a compromise of 90 days. These are but 2 instances, but my overall view is that this ordinance should be left unchanged. What are your reasons for changing it? I think we all know, but no one speaks about it. Why not? As I believe the administrator has pointed out correctly in an earlier meeting, this ordinance is likely unenforceable. The restrictions here could easily be ignored, or loopholes and workarounds found by any smart event organizer or their lawyer. If a large production company wanted to put on an outdoor concert here, They could do it quite easily with or without the county's involvement. And you would probably have to file an injunction to stop it. Hypothetically, I have. But the event organizers wouldn't do that. Every good festival, event, and production team needs and would want the county's help to put on a major event in this county. Someone on the board recently mentioned that they didn't want another Burning Man here. Besides conflating the northern neck with the wide open space of the Mojave Desert, the insinuation is that a bunch of wild hippies enjoying their personal freedoms in one place would be too much for this county to bear. The Burning Man Festival, which I assure you, you have no fear of ever being replicated here, actually sells $45 million in tickets annually. And over the course of 1 week, pumps millions of dollars into Pershing County, Nevada, and its businesses. Richmond County should be so lucky to ever have any large festival or music event drawing thousands of people here for 1 or 2 days that brings in a massive influx of revenue to county businesses and a low impact on the environment. So I propose that instead of making it harder to have events here, which is what you're doing, and taking an anti-tourism stance with these changes to this ordinance, the county should instead put out the welcome mat and try to entice large festivals to come here. Other counties in Virginia have created amphitheaters and tax incentives to invite music festivals, but we're doing the opposite here. Is that my time? I'll end really quickly. One only has to look no further than the town of Warsaw and the private-public sector partnership that we have created with Oyster Shoals Music Hall to see how live music promotes tourism and brings people together in the community. It brings money to area businesses and to the town coffers. It brings in new people to the area to visit, to stay, and to eat and shop. I will always support the county's effort to promote safety, and I encourage event organizers to always work with the county on their event. But let's be mindful of what we're projecting to future organizers who may consider Richmond County as a place to do business. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dooley?
Hi, good evening. I'm Maggie Dooling from Sharps. Bob Dylan's song called Maggie's Farm is clear namesake for my business ventures that have yet to take fully off, as we all know. But my operations in Sharps are a reflection of that song. With the clever repetition of the line, I ain't gonna work on Maggie's farm no more. So when this proposed changes to this ordinance came out and I started looking at them, my first response was I joked with friends saying, they should just call this the ain't gonna be a Maggie's farm no more. That's what they should just call it, because it seems very much directed at me. So as I thought about it more and more, it stopped being funny, right? It started actually feeling a little bit serious to me, because the fact that it's so like such a reflection of the issues that you and my neighbors have had with me is going to have a major impact on everybody else in our community, and I don't think that's fair to the community. Like it just seems a bit of a reach. This reflects sort of what our political system is about. You're elected officials meant to represent the voice of the community, but I don't really know how that's working. Because it's you guys and a few people from Sharps in this room today, and that's a very small percentage of the actual constituency that you have. 9,000 people in this county, and that's from a 2013 census. So when I did the math, I gave credit to 10 county officials, 25 members of Sharps community, and 10 extras for good measure. That came up to 45 people out of 9,000 is 1/2 of 1%. So these ideas and these changes are coming from the group of people in this room, but it doesn't reflect what other people in our community would want or would have to contribute. So I'm guessing that you'd be surprised to know I'm not standing up here saying don't make these changes, don't do this for my benefit. It does nothing. I mean, it shouldn't, I don't want this to somehow end up being, understood down the line that it was clearly retaliatory against me, and then left out of consideration the rights and the needs of other businesses and the people in our community. I agree with Mr. Emery that the costs that are proposed would be almost prohibitive for a lot of people, as far as the fees of the application fees, paying for the newspaper run, paying for the notification to neighbors, and then additionally paying for services of the county, police and EMS. At that point now, somebody's whole budget is gone just towards that. There's no balloons at their party, right? They don't have any money anymore for that. I think that people should be allowed to do what has been done. Forget about me. Forget about me. That's a separate issue, but this really feels like I don't want that burden on me, that all of these rules get changed in here tonight because people don't like me. People don't like the way that I've done my operations, which I understand. And again, Mr. Emery really, hit the nail on the head that it takes more involvement than I was aware of to do what I'm trying to do out there. I'm perfectly willing to, to make that change where going forward as I try to grow my business and bring in people from out of the county to spend their money in our county, work with you guys and make sure that it's being done in the name of public health and safety. But don't change all the rules in my name. I mean, I think that it'll be regrettable down the line that this is a retaliation against what my neighbors don't like and what my neighbors think of me personally, which is a whole nother story, because that's gotten real personal. It stopped being about business, it stopped being about ordinances, it stopped being about regulations, it started being personal. I decorated my golf cart this July for the parade, which I did not attend, but I decorated my golf cart with all of the names that I've been called by my neighbors and names that have been called, that have been published in the paper about what kind of a person I am. Not what kind of a business I run, not what kind of, but me personally. So I would urge you, don't throw out your changes. Just don't make them happen tonight. Allow some time. Delay your process here and allow other people in the community to get more involved with shaping an ordinance that does reflect the county's stated purpose to continue to grow small businesses using outdoor events and recreation as part of the premise of it. And that's your, comprehensive plan. It's there over and over again to use outdoor recreation services in our county to enhance and promote public, to business and the economy here. So keep focused on that. That's all I'm trying to do. You guys can help me do it better. That's fine. But don't. I lost my train of thought, but you see where I'm going. Like, it doesn't have to be. These decisions don't have to be made tonight. I think you need to keep working, get other people involved, make sure that the voice of this community is being represented and heard in here, and not just a select few people who happen to be my neighbors, right? I mean, maybe one day they'll learn to like me. I don't know. I really appreciate your time.
Mr. Noonan?
I don't have anything prepared for you tonight, except for the fact that I love this entire community. This place is really drawing me. I've befriended Maggie, me and my wife. We decided to join forces with her and try to start a business out here. And these regulations don't just affect us. These regulations are going to affect multiple future pioneers, the people that are your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. These are rules now that you're trying to put in place that are going to affect people from trying to start something new. We're just trying to dare greatly and make something better for ourselves. We're trying to make something better for this community, and these ordinances are going to hamper that. It's going to hamper others in the future. I ask you to please think again about passing this ordinance. Thank you.
Mr. Panther?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tom Panther. My wife and I bought our house down on Bamboo Lane in Sharps 17 years ago. We moved full-time down there 9 years ago. I like to refer to us as refugees from Northern Virginia, where I was born, raised, and worked a career for 33 years. The reason I'm in favor of this ordinance is I am one of the residents that is impacted by activities going on at the prior speaker's farm, including incredibly loud amplified music, which can be heard inside of our homes. And I've got dates written down as late as 1:15 in the morning, where with the windows closed and the air conditioning on, I can hear the music coming off of that farm. So the question is, what is the nature of different communities within Richmond County? We came to Sharps because it's a quiet little village. And if I'm guilty of wanting to keep it that way, so be it. There are times and places for events. And a prior speaker talked about a different venue who's against the statute. I understand that. But there are impacts on people. And a prior speaker talked about a small minority of people. I don't think that's the case in Sharps. Almost all of the people I've spoken with, I've met with, are against any commercial activities on a farm that is zoned agricultural, where they're having large crowds of people, loud music. There are places, I think, in Richmond County that would be perfect for business opportunities, for outdoor types of events. I don't think a farm down near the end of Sharps Road in Sharps is the place for it. So I'm all in favor of the ordinance, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't actually live in Dawes County, but I've done business in the surrounding counties and born and raised here. And I know most of the folks on this board. And I'm here tonight because I'm very fearful that this type of legislation will spread to neighboring counties. This is specifically against crowds of people to play music. I noticed that you also cut the music program from your schools in this area. And nothing in this has been specific on size of people, like the number of people at an event, how it impacts anything for security or safety of others. I've seen nothing about a noise ordinance. These are broad stroke restrictions to stop events with no real details on how you would actually go about it other than getting an approval from this board. It makes me very sad that this is the type of thing that happens in this area. I've been to most all the events in the last few years at this farm in particular. I brought a decibel meter to the last one. At the edge of the property line, the decibels read at the full volume of her event was 62. That is less than a normal conversation. I went down to where the next neighbor, I'm not sure if there's any people that are here this evening, where the police were there with the decibel meter, and the frogs in the ditch were louder than the music coming off the farm. We could not even hear the music at the end of her driveway on Bamboo Lane. This just seems very, very not Northern Act type of activity to be doing. Makes me very sad. Thank you for your time.
Would you give us your address for the record, please?
192 East Banbury Road, Tappahannock, Virginia.
Thank you.
Or
Buzzards Point Marina down in Reno.
That's fine. Thank you. Mr. Brisendine? All right, Bridenstine, I'm sorry.
I've been called worse.
But
My name's
I
Bill
can't-
Bridenstine, excuse me. My wife Sue and I live in Sharps, 310 Front Street. We wanted to commend Mr. Quick and the staff for the excellent job they've done on revising this ordinance. The main concern, of course, for any ordinance is the safety, health, and welfare of attendees to the events and the county residents. And I think they've done a great job of covering that and separating out the multi-day events from the one-day events. Particularly concerned about the overnight camping issue down there where there is no sanitation provided, and it's good that for both categories, overnight camping is only allowed if they have gotten the special permit for that. And also, I'm sure that if the board were to approve one of these applications, they would make sure that the camping requirements also met the zoning requirements of the property on which the event is to be held. A couple of points I thought about in looking over the ordinance. One would be access from a main road. I don't know about other events such as Mr. Emery's, but I know in Sharps an issue has been access through the side road down on Bamboo Lane, so I would think it would be good for the board to think about the idea of requiring access to an event being from a main road and not from a side street that serves primarily residential areas. As you've heard, the music is an issue, at least in the Sharps area. I'm not sure up at Mount Airy, but the cutoff time for music in the existing ordinance as well as the proposed revisions, I believe, is midnight. And I'm wondering if the board might not want to consider having an earlier cutoff time for music at night, or if it would be possible to look at that on a case-by-case basis when you're actually approving an application based on how close the event is to a residential area where it would disturb other people. If it's out in the middle of a 100-acre farm and there are no houses around, obviously they could play till 2 or 3 in the morning and it wouldn't really bother anybody. But if it's right up next to a residential area like it is in Sharps, or the concerts that the town has up here in the Warsaw Town Park, you know, you would want to have an earlier cutoff time. But I commend the staff and the county for the excellent work they've done on this, and we support adoption of the ordinance. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll close the public comment period. Or do you have anything you want to?
Chairman Sanders, can I say one more thing,
Go ahead.
even though my time ran out?
Go ahead.
I'd like to remind the board that this was written in 1976 originally, when people were afraid of Woodstock and the US Festival. For 30 years, people here didn't even know this was on the books. I ran events in this county for years without any of this, successfully. It wasn't until 2018 when Mr. Quick found this ordinance that you guys made some changes to it. And we went with it, and everything was fine. This is a knee-jerk reaction. I want to remind this board that less than a few years ago, when there was another contentious land issue, every single one of this person on this board, except for Mr. Sanders, told me specifically that they could not see fit to telling another landowner what to do with his property. So why is it now all of a sudden that you guys want to tell small landowners what they can do with their property? I've heard some of the complaints tonight. I get it. There's some loud music. There's some people driving cars around sometimes late at night. It's a low impact. 1 day, 2 days. The amount of revenue this could bring into the county and help a small business out far outweighs, you know, that. Yes, these people need to work with the county, but you guys shouldn't be the strong arm of the government putting the finger on the scale and trying to force people into doing something. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will, if you want me to, I will address three things very quickly. The ordinance does read, in both the section on multi-day and single-day hours of operation, 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. So that, again, you know, the board, if this, and even if the current ordinance remains, has the ability to place additional restrictions. It was mentioned about a fee. I didn't mention this earlier, but it is in the ordinance for multi-day events. There is proposed fee of $500 plus $10 for adjoining property owner. Really, that's consistent with what we charge for rezoning applications or special exception applications that require the advertisement and the notices to adjoining property owners. And all that really covers, we're not making any money. If anything, we might be losing. That covers the advertising costs for the 2 weeks in the newspaper and the fees to send adjoining property notices. It was mentioned that I had said that the ordinance was unenforceable. I don't ever remember saying that the ordinance was unenforceable. I probably did say that there are ways that anyone could creatively probably find around any ordinance, really not just this one. But I believe that the ordinance in its current format and as amended and proposed would be enforceable. So those are the only comments I'll make, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
I don't at this time.
All right, what's your pleasure of the board?
Are you gonna bring it up at the November?
That's what I'm asking you now. Do you want to vote on it tonight? You want to hold off?
I think we ought to wait till November.
Hold off until November? Okay. Then that's what we'll do. We put it on the November agenda.
And that would be 9 a.m.
Yes, at the 9 a.m. agenda. Okay. All right, does anybody else have anything to come before the board tonight? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming and staying with us.
Thank you.
Give me 2 seconds.